In this voice thread, I'm going to bring you back down memory lane where, when you were in elementary school, you did long division. Do you remember that? Long division when you were in elementary school? Well, in algebra, long division is the same thing. When you have algebraic expressions and you have division, you will do the same operations as you did when you were in elementary school. So in this voice thread, we're going to review that. We're going to review the long division that you did in elementary school. I'm going to help you with an example using long division with algebraic expressions. And of course, I'm going to show you when do we actually use long division. And then there'll be a couple of examples. This is the learning goal that is required for the math science option. You must know how to divide a polynomial by another polynomial. Sometimes there's a remainder, sometimes there is no remainder. For this lesson, you must already know how to manipulate algebraic expressions. What do I mean by that? I mean you must be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide algebraic expressions. And this is where I bring you down memory lane. Do you remember when you were in elementary school? If you had division, and of course in elementary school, you only had numbers involved. So when you were in elementary school, if you had 155 divided by 20, think of that for a minute. But first, I'd like to look at some language that you should know whenever you are dividing. The number here is called the dividend. This is the divisor. Whatever you're dividing by is the divisor. The solution, the answer, the result is called the quotient. But those are all words that mean exactly the same as quotient. The result, the solution, the answer. Are you familiar with those words? And I'm using these words because this is how you're going to set up your long division. The question, the dividend, you put it inside your division sign. Here, you will have your divisor. Here is where your solution is going to be, your answer, your result. So in this example, if I'm going to set up my long division, I place my long division sign. My dividend is 155. I'm dividing by 20. This is the divisor. This is where I place it. And when I work it out, my result, my quotient, will be up here. So try to think about how you did this in elementary school. Now, this is a simple example, but it's just to review the steps because the steps are exactly the same for algebra. You looked at your first two digits here and you divided by 2. 15 divided by 2 is 7. Then what did you do? You took that 7 and you multiplied by 20. So remember, you divided and then you multiplied. When you multiplied the 7 by 20, that gave you 140. What did you do after that? You subtracted. So you divided, you multiplied, and then you subtracted. When you subtracted, that gave to you 15. Then you verified to see if you could divide even further. 15 divided by 20, that's it, you're done. Remember, you called this the remainder, and This is the quotient or the result. So here's a review of the steps that you did. First of all, you placed your long division sign, you placed the dividend, and you divided by the divisor. Then you divided, you multiplied, and you subtracted. You've always got to be careful when you subtract. And this is a little term that my students would always say, rinse and repeat. That means you start over again to see if you can divide. Your result in this case is 7, and there's a remainder of 15. It's the same for long division using algebra. Let me help you with that. So what if algebraic expressions are involved, such as this example on the board? Notice you have a polynomial divided by another polynomial. Now, another expression that you would have is if you have a polynomial over another polynomial. Whenever you see that, that means division. So you know you will have long division. So let's remember the steps that we had in elementary school when we had long division. Same idea. You have the dividend. You're going to divide by the divisor. The answer, the result, is called the quotient. Let's set it up. Remember, we put our division sign. We're going to have the dividend. We're going to divide by the divisor, and then we're going to get the result. So, what are we working here? X squared plus 7x plus 12 divided by x plus 3. Do you remember the steps? Let me show you. Do you remember we said the steps were division, multiplication, subtract, and rinse and repeat. So let's start that division. We divide the first expression by the first expression in the divisor. X squared divided by x. Remember our laws for division. Keep that base, which is x, and we subtract the exponents. Where do we place that x? That is the beginning of our result. We place it on top. This is where we're going to place the result. We're done the division. Now we're going to multiply. What are we going to multiply? We're going to multiply that result by the divisor. X times x plus 3. In this case, x times x is x squared, and x times 3 is positive 3x. So I multiplied the part of the result because I'm not done. I multiplied that by the divisor. Where do I place that x squared plus 3x? I place it underneath. The next step is subtraction. Why don't you try and subtract? But I'll show you on the next slide. Now, the reason I put this beware icon is because when you subtract, you must be careful. We're subtracting. X squared minus x squared eliminates. Now, this one's really simple, but this is my advice. Remember, when you're subtracting, you keep that variable. You keep the like term. You can subtract when you have like terms. So you place it immediately, and then you subtract. Positive 7 minus a positive 3 is positive 4. And take your calculator if you're worried to make a mistake, and sometimes we do make silly mistakes. Now, this is understood that this is plus 0. So when you subtract, 12 minus 0 is 12. So 4x plus 12. Then I rinse and repeat. I start over again. I divide. Why don't you try the next division? So you divide the first term of your dividend by the first term of your divisor. 4x divided by x. Place it here and be careful with your division. The x's eliminate. That's equal to 4. Where are you going to place your 4? You're going to place it in your result. And that's a positive 4. So we've done the division. Try to remember what we do next. Of course, it's multiply, but try to get that multiplication. I'll show you though. So the next step is to take the result, that latest result, which is positive 4, and you multiply by the divisor. Multiply 4 times x plus 3. Don't forget, multiply the 4 by both terms. 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times 3 is 12. I've got 4x plus 12. Where do I place that 4x plus 12? I'm going to place it in the dividend. What am I going to do next? Do you remember? Try it. After we multiply, we subtract, and we're careful. 4x minus 4x is 0. 12 minus 12 is also 0. We have our result. Our result is x plus 4, and notice we have no remainder. Now, I forgot to mention, always verify to see if you can continue your division. But because we have a remainder of 0, we're done. Now, you're probably asking yourself, when are we going to use long division? Here is an example. I'm not going to read this for you, but try to think of what your next step will be, and I will help you with the next strategies. Whenever you have a story problem, there are several things you should do in order to set up what you need to do. I always recommend that you sketch out a diagram. We've got a rectangle. Sketch that rectangle out. In a rectangle, we need the base and the height. We have the expression that represents the base, and we have the expression that represents the area. The question is, find the perimeter of the rectangle. So we always look at what we know, and we always look at what we need to know. We know the area, we know the base. If we're looking for the perimeter, we've got to remember that perimeter is equal to twice the measure of the base plus twice the measure of the height. I have the measure of the base, but I need the height. Let's look at what we can do. What math did we learn when area is involved? Well, we know that the area is base times the height. Remember, we need the height. In order to get the height, I can divide the area divided by the base. That will give me the expression that represents the height. I know as an algebraic expression what the area is. That's given to me. 6x squared minus 13x minus 5. I know the expression that represents the base. That is also given to me. 3x plus 1. So, in order to get the height, I have this expression. Well, what did we learn in a previous slide? When you have a polynomial divided by a polynomial, you're going to do the operation of long division. Remember long division? We place the dividend. Oh, first of all, we place our division sign. We're going to place our dividend inside the division sign, and our divisor is 3x plus 1. And we follow DMS, rinse and repeat. That will help us find the height of the rectangle. Why don't you try that? And I'll show you the steps. Divide. Take the first expression of the dividend, divide by the first expression in the divisor. 6x squared divided by 3x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. X squared divided by x. Keep the base, subtract the exponents. 2x. That is part of your result. Where do you place that? You place it on top of your division sign. What do you think you're going to do next? The next step is multiplication. You multiply that latest result by the divisor. 2x times 3x plus 1. 2x times 3x. 2 times 3 is 6. X times x is x squared. So that's 6x squared. And you must multiply 2x by 1, which is positive 2x. So that'll give to you 6x squared plus 2x. Where do you place that? You're going to place it in the dividend. 6x squared plus 2x. The next step is subtraction. I want you to think about that. I want you to beware and look at the next slide to get what your next step will be. Beware when you subtract. 6x squared minus 6x squared is 0. So we're all right with that. This is what I recommend. You're subtracting. You must subtract only when you have like terms, and you keep that like term. So place that expression, place that like term. Ignore it, then take your calculator if you're having issues. Minus 13 minus a positive 2 is negative 15. So when we subtract, this is what we obtain. Then we rinse and repeat. Try the next step. So we start over again. Negative 15x divided by 3x. Place it here. Don't try to do it in your head. Put it on your scrap. Negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5, and the x's eliminate. That is a continuation of your result. Where do you place it? You place it where the result is. What do you think you're going to do next? Multiplication. You're going to multiply the latest result by the divisor. Try it. Negative 5 times 3x plus 1. Don't forget, you got to multiply that negative 5 that's in front of the brackets by both terms inside the bracket. Negative 5 times 3x is negative 15x, and negative 5 times positive 1 is negative 5. Where do you place that? You're going to place it in the dividend. Negative 15x minus 5. What are you going to do next? You're going to subtract. Be careful when you subtract. Negative 15x minus a negative 15x is actually negative 15x plus 15x. They eliminate. Same with negative 5 minus a negative 5. That gives to you, it's actually negative 5 plus 5 because you're subtracting a negative. That tells me that I have a 0 remainder. We're going to stop for a minute. Our result is 2x minus 5. Go to the next slide to look at how you should be thinking next. In a story problem that involves algebra, after you perform an operation, always stop and read the problem once more. What were we looking for? Remember, we were looking for the height. Remember, we did long division and we found the expression that represented the height. Fill in the values in your diagram. So you know that the height is 2x minus 5. I'm going to fill those expressions in my diagram. The height is 2x minus 5. The base is 3x plus 1. We stop and we read the question once more. What are we looking for? We're looking for the perimeter of the rectangle. Well, you know how to find the perimeter, but at your desk, try this before I show you the result. So what am I doing now? I'm finding the perimeter of the rectangle. Always title your work in a story problem. It will help you think about what you're doing. You're finding the perimeter of the rectangle. Always draw a diagram and fill in the values you know. You know the height is 2x minus 5. You know the base is 3x plus 1. So perimeter. You know that perimeter is twice the base plus twice the height. Well, we're going to substitute the base with what we know it to be, 3x plus 1, and we're going to substitute the height with what we know it to be, 2x minus 5. We're going to perform these algebraic expressions. 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times 1 is positive 2. We have a number here in front of brackets. We're going to multiply that positive 2 times 2x and positive 2 times negative 5. What does that give to you? 6x plus 2 plus 4x minus 10. Now we can collect our like terms. 6x plus 4x is 10x. Positive 2 minus 10 is negative 8. The perimeter of our rectangle is 10x minus 8. We verify our question once more. Remember the question was to find the perimeter of the rectangle? We now know that the perimeter of the rectangle is 10x minus 8 units. At the beginning of this voice thread, I expressed what the goals are for SN4. You are responsible for knowing how to perform long division with or without a remainder. Prior to this, there were no remainders. Now what we're going to look at, 2 examples with remainders. Try to do these on your own before I show you the steps. Let's do this. Let's perform this long division. You've got long division. Remember to place your long division sign first. Then what do? You take the dividend, you place it inside that long division sign, and you place your divisor outside the long division side. Then you start your DMS. Work on this from the beginning to the end, and then I'll show you all of the steps. So you start your division. 24x cubed divided by 2x squared. You place it here and you're careful. 24 divided by 2 is 12. X cubed divided by x squared. Keep the base, subtract the exponents. Where do you put that 12x? That will be part of your result. 12x. What do you do next? You perform your multiplication. You're going to multiply the beginning of your result by the divisor. 12x times the divisor. And you're careful. 12x times 2x squared, 12 times 2 is 24, x times x squared is x cubed. You've got to multiply that 12x by every single term. 12 times 3 is 36, x times x is x squared. And I can't forget my last term, 12x times negative 8 is negative 96. Where do I place this? I place this in the dividend. That will give to me 24x cubed plus 36x squared minus 96. I've done my division, I've done my multiplication, DMS, I do my subtraction, and I must be very careful. I beware. Place my line and I subtract. 24x cubed minus 24x cubed eliminates. This is my recommendation. Place your like term. Remember, you're subtracting like terms. You must keep that like term. And 26 minus 36 is negative 10. So it's going to be negative 10x squared. Then your x, you keep that like term, negative 111 minus a negative 96. And as I've said before, use your calculator if you have issues. But remember, if you're subtracting a negative, it's like adding. Therefore, negative 111x minus a negative 96x is negative 15x. And this is understood that it's 0. So 50 minus 0 is positive 50. So I just subtracted and I was careful collecting my like terms. And I rinse and repeat. I start over again. I'm going to do my division. Negative 10x squared divided by 2x squared gives to me negative 5. And negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. The x squareds eliminate. Negative 5. Where am I going to put that? Remember, that is the next part of your result. I place it here. Then what do? I multiply the latest result by the divisor. Negative 5 times 2x squared plus 3x gives to me negative 5 times 2x squared is negative 10x squared. Negative 5 times positive 3x is negative 15x. And negative 5 times negative 8 is positive 40. Where am I going to place that? I place that in the dividend. And you've got to be careful with your subtraction. When I subtract, negative 10x squared minus a negative 10x squared is the same as plus 10x squared. So they eliminate. Same here. Negative 15x minus a negative 15x is the same as negative 15x plus 15x. That eliminates. We're going to subtract. 50 minus 40 gives to me 10. Remember, the question is, what is the remainder of the following division? The remainder is 10. If they ask you what the remainder is, the answer would be 10. If they asked you about the result, your result would be 12x minus 5 with that remainder. Let's do one more example. try this one more example. What is the remainder of the following division? Did you remember you have to place your division sign? Do you remember that this is the dividend? Do you remember that this is the divisor? Let me show you what your step would look like. Start your DMS and verify with the slides that are coming up. DMS. Start with division. 3x cubed divided by x. I have my work here. 3 divided by 1, this is understood that it's 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. X cubed divided by x, I keep the base. I subtract my exponents. 3 minus 1 is 2. Where do I place my 3x squared? I place it in the result. What am I going to multiply? I'm going to multiply the result by the divisor. 3x squared times x plus 3. 3x squared times x is 3x cubed, and 3x squared times 3 is 9x squared. Where do I place this? I place this in the dividend, and I subtract. I'm careful when I subtract. 3x cubed minus 3x cubed is 0. Then, remember you're collecting like terms. Keep in mind you're subtracting. I keep the variable x squared, negative 5, minus a positive 9 is negative 14. And I bring down negative 12x and positive 20. And I rinse and repeat. I'll go to the next slide, but you should try it. I rinse and repeat by working on my division first. So I take my dividend, negative 4x squared, I divide it by the first expression in my divisor. Negative 14x squared divided by x will give to me negative 14. Where do I place that? I place that in my result. I'm then going to multiply DMS, division, multiplication. Negative 14x, that latest result, I multiply by the divisor. Negative 14x times x is negative 14x squared, and negative 14x times 3 is negative 42. I place it in my dividend, and I'm careful when I subtract. Negative 14x squared minus a negative 14x squared is the same as adding the 14x squared, so that eliminates. I collect my like terms. I keep the x and I do the subtraction. Negative 12 minus a negative 42 is the same as negative 12 plus 42. That's why I have 30. And I bring down my 20. And I rinse and repeat. So I start over again. I rinse and repeat. I'm going to do division, multiplication, and subtraction. So I start my division. 30x divided by x. I place it here, and I'm careful. X divided by x eliminates. I'm left with 30. Where do I place that result? I place it on top of the division sign. Then I'm going to multiply that latest result by the divisor. 30 times x plus 3. 30 times x is 30x. 30 times 3 is positive 90. Where do I place that 30x plus 90? I place it in the dividend. Then what do? I do the subtraction. 30x minus 30x eliminates, and 20 minus a positive 90 is minus 70. This is the result with the remainder of negative 70. So here's a summary of the lesson that you're responsible for knowing for dividing a polynomial by another polynomial with or without a remainder. You've got your long division sign, your dividend, your divisor, and your result is here. Remember DMS, rinse and repeat. Division, multiplication, subtraction, and you're careful with your subtraction and you repeat if you need to. Good luck, all.